Welcome to another fabulous episode of My Orgasmic Life. I'm your hostess with the mostest, Gaia Morrissette. And today's show is brought to you by Tickle.life. Tee-hee-hee. Now, before we get into our topic our topic today is afraid of being truly happy and all the ways that we sabotage that and all the bizarre reasons why we sabotage that. So before we get into that, two things. Full disclosure, this is a two-parter. Part one will be all the ways we sabotage it, why we sabotage it, what is happiness, why is it that when we get close to it, we blow it up. So that's today's part one is all about the why. And everybody has access to it. You can watch the video, you can listen on my podcast, My Orgasmic Life. But how to change that and how to make steps to make new choices and course correct will be in part two. And that's only for my Patreon people. So if you want that, it's only $5 a month. And you get exclusive content. So you'll have to join Patreon to get part two. Okay. Just wanted to be full disclosure all up front. Okay. So let's get into happiness. So yay, happiness. And we all talk about how we want happiness, how every moment of our day is about we will be happy when, we'll be happy if. Our whole existence is all about trying to find happiness, experiencing happiness. However, whoa, I'm rolling away. Please hold. My feet need to be on the ground. My legs are a little short. All right. Okay, so where was I? Oh, yes, happiness. And what is happiness? So happiness kind of has like it's kind of a spectrum of emotional experiences. So we have like happiness where it's just like pleasant. It's like I feel good. I feel pleasant, contentment is part of the spectrum of happiness. Then we have excitement and we have bliss and then we have joy. And there's all like varying degrees of this feeling of things are good. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to be anything. I don't have to fix anything. There's just this, like things are good. I'm content. And the level of contentment deems how happy you are and where you are on the happiness spectrum, so to speak. In our, we got contentment, happiness, joy, elation, bliss, ecstatic, excitement, all of those things. Now, years ago, so I want to tell you a story. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, there was a girl named Gaia. All right, so long time ago, I would say 15 years ago, which is actually, so about 15 years ago, I really started I was on the cusp of like, this was my first sort of like really getting everything I ever wanted and realizing that happiness was an illusion. That it was this illusion that I didn't feel at the core of me that I deserved. So about 15 years ago, I had believed up to this point, my whole life, that if I was debt free, if I was living in the jungle, if I was building a retreat center, if I got to go to the ocean every day, I would be happy. That was my ultimate goal of joy and happiness and living the dream. I was like, if I got all those things, I would live the dream. And so leading up to that, my whole life was basically trying to get that dream to come to reality. So here I am. I'm sitting at the beach in Costa Rica, looking at a retreat center. I have sold my house. I am completely debt free. I have all of the things that I've spent 35 years or so, without trying to do the math in my head, about 35, around 35 or so, 35 years of my life trying to achieve. And here I was. I had finally achieved it. So everything should have worked out. Like I should have been happy, should have been ecstatic. I should have been blissed out in this Zen, ecstatic, orgasmic space. But I wasn't. I was angry, and I was looking for things to make me upset and to make me angry. And, I was having like 6 naps a day. Like my life was so zen. I had nothing going on. Just life was good. And, one of the dogs would bark and wake me up from my nap. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so pissed. I'm so annoyed. And so I had to stop. And I was like, whoa, why can't I choose happiness? Like, why I should be happy. So that was my first sort of like, whoa, slap in the face around happiness. So then I started to really dive into this and look into, well, why can't I be happy? Why am I afraid of happy? So the first thing that came to me, which seems really like crazy, so we're going to call it what it is. It's not logical. And I say this because whatever your reasons might be for being terrified of being happy and afraid of being happy and sabotaging, and we'll get into that in a moment, it's probably not going to be very logical. So mine was, if I was happy, I would spontaneously combust. I thought I would die. I actually really believed at the core, deep down in my subconscious, that if I truly became happy, I would cease to exist. And the reason behind why I felt like I would cease to exist was because I had spent my whole life fighting. I had a lot of trauma, so I was a survivor. It was always fighting and conquering and struggling and achieving and doing all those things. So if I was truly happy, which meant I didn't have anything I had nothing to fight for, nothing to strive for, then I would just cease to exist. My whole identity was so wrapped up in the being a fighter, a warrior, struggling, that there was no possibility in my subconscious brain to believe that I had another purpose and that I could survive without it. And so that started me down the path of like rewiring and reprogramming. And I wrote this really awesome book called 7 Easy Steps to Happiness, Stop, Drop, and Wiggle. How we can course correct and reprogram our brain. It started me on that path of like spending the last 15, 16 years really choosing happiness, changing my emotional default from misery and suffering to happiness and joy and Zen. So I think I'm doing great. I'm like, I got this. I've totally conquered my shit around happiness, and that I totally deserve it and I'm worthy of it. And it's safe for me to be happy. I talk about happiness and I teach the world about happiness. And I'm like a little happy fairy, frolicky, goddess that I am, pleasure goddess that I am. So let's fast forward to my life currently, which is why I'm revisiting this conversation with you guys. So I'm in the process right now of up leveling to the next phase of ultimate living my dream. And a lot of the old sabotage behaviors and fears and distresses and things are happening again. And they're happening again. And it's really fascinating that they're happening again. So, because there's another layer under, I healed the whole my identity piece, and I healed the whole it's okay for me to be happy, and I healed that I choose happiness. I healed all that stuff, but yet it's surfacing again, which is what happens often with our shit. We all have themes in our personal growth and development. And so this time, here's my up level. So my up level is I'm in the process of moving to the nudist resort, to moving to, or I like to call it, for everybody who's uncomfortable with the word nudist resort, my clothing optional community that I'm moving to. And that is my happiest place on earth, next to, there's only a couple other places that I am as happy. You know, the Amazon jungle and on the ocean. Okay, so seeing that we don't have an ocean or an Amazon jungle here, next best thing is the clothing optional resort. And I married somebody who lives there full time. And we have this great relationship, and it's super easy. And he loves me for who I am, unconditional love. I don't have to be anything, I don't have to do anything. It's beautiful. My expenses will decrease, so my revenue will increase, which is beautiful. So we'll have some more abundance coming in, even more than I already have, of building wealth in my life. So like I quit smoking, so my health is better. I've rewired my digestion, so my health is better. So like all these things, like I'm living the dream. I'm in the process of letting go of the old to make space for this new dream, and this dream where I really have nothing to achieve anymore. Nothing. And so because of I have nothing to achieve and I will be truly happy, all the weird sabotage, cray, batshit crazies are coming out again. So I'm looking for things to fight with my husband. This morning I stubbed my toe, just not paying attention, out of nowhere, just stubbed it. I am I'm like seeking out drama where drama doesn't live. Let's see what else. What other cray things am I doing right now? Oh, I'm like crying a lot and like making like things that would be like normally like, we'll dap. It's like, oh, it's the end of the world. Oh, I hate my life. The drama. Throwing myself down on the bed like I'm a teenage girl, like crazy stuff. And all of that boils down to what is underneath my fear of truly living my dream and having complete, utter happiness. So, what I've come up with, and I'm sure there's some others, but what I've been privy to in having some dialogue with my inner subconscious brain is that if I fully have happiness and there's no drama in my life, there's no chaos, there's no crisis in my life, then somebody can use that against me. So this is what's going on. This is the new version of the old version, which is somebody can take my happiness away and they can use it against me. And you might be like, well, that seems rather paranoid. And there is some premise behind that fear. It's again, our subconscious brain is not logical, so that's an important part of that. But the logic, the illogical logic behind it is that as a child, I was severely sexually abused as well as satanically ritually abused. And so happiness was actually, threat of hurting people around me, threat of taking things in my life, putting me at risk, putting the people I love at risk. These were ways in which to keep me quiet. These were ways to keep me complacent. And so there is some logic in the not the logic, right? So from that place, now I have to course correct. Now I have to heal. Now I have to change this because I don't want to spend the rest of my life sabotaging this fabulous life that I work every day to create, to manifest into reality. And I have manifested into in reality. Because if I don't heal this, if I don't heal what's underneath this piece of why I don't really believe I deserve or I'm worthy or it's safe or whatever's going on for you, if I don't heal that, or if you don't heal that, you will sabotage your life forever. And that sabotage can show up in many ways. It can show up with getting in arguments, and so you don't get, you get fired from your job. That can show up in you don't feel like you deserve to be loved, and so you sabotage your relationships around you. That could show up as, not taking care of your body, and not taking care of your body creates ailments and makes you sick, so that you can't fully enjoy life to its max. There's lots of reasons behind why, as a society, like really at the root of our societies, most of our societies, not all of them, but most of our societies on a global level, is that we don't feel like we deserve or that it's safe to truly be happy. We actually support one another in misery. We support one another in struggle. We encourage the conquerors. And in order for you to conquer something, you must overcome it, which means that it's not easy, which means you're not in a place of happiness. So all of these things are like at the foundation of why we strive. We've been told, and our need to find joy and happiness is deep within us. But from a cultural societal space, there's no reward, there's no benefits, it's not a safe place. People will make fun of you, people won't like you. And another interesting piece that I've not only heard from my clients but from myself is like, well, if I'm super happy and my life is fabulous, what will I have to talk about? What kind of I had a conversation with a girlfriend of mine recently. I'm like, what will I talk about? What are we going to talk about if everything is fabulous? Other people don't want to hear about your fabulous life because their life isn't fabulous, but if they're totally cool with me bitching about, my hot water heater breaking on the weekend and being like, man, that sucks. But me being like, oh, I had a great weekend and I frolicked and I danced naked in the rain, and that's it. And that's the end of the conversation. So there's lots of spaces here. And I lovingly invite you to look within yourself to find out what are your secret belief systems that are preventing you from finding joy and creating your ultimate dream, your ultimate life. And not only creating it, but then stepping into just being it and not having to do anything with it anymore. Okay, so I hope this was inspirational. So this was part one. Part two is for exclusively for my Patreon people who support their hostess, people that support me and love me. Well, you can still love me and not necessarily support me, but people who support me get bonus points from me, bonus content from me. So part two is going to be, how do we stop the sabotage? How do we start to change our cognitive brain patterning around happiness and sabotage and choosing and choosing happiness? How do we do that? That's what part two is. And you can find that on Patreon. It'll be available later this afternoon. So if you want to go and sign up for Patreon, it's only $5 a month. For exclusive content, you can go to Gaia Morrissette at GaiaMorrissette.com, which is my hub. That's also the best way to find all the other ways that I can support you. And there'll be a link for Patreon there, as well as I'll put a link in the show notes here. All right, have a great day. I give you permission to embrace your happiness, whatever that is, and the ultimate life that you desire. Bye bye.